I am born to achieve greatness, and so are you. On this week's episode of the Born to Achieve Greatness podcast, we have a continuation of a dynamic conversation with Warren Shaw.
Born to Achieve. Born to Achieve. Welcome to Born to Achieve podcast, the show that inspires and motivates you to unlock your full potential and achieve your goals. With your host, Warren Andrew Pinder. Let's get started on this week's episode of Born to Achieve. Born to Achieve.
Oh, certainly, man. For young men that have to overcome so much, whether it's demographics, lack of education, finances, and they're looking at the league as a ticket, right? Yes or no? Is that sustainable? Should they, to the day, back in the day, it was like, that was a real time story. Is it still real?
It's not like there's I don't know. There's no free tickets. There's no silver bullet magic elixirs. Like there's none of that. And I think with competition being as stiff as it has ever been for that specific, career path, if you will, that's why it's so important to, remain open to different opportunities, whatever they may be. Again, I'll tell you another quick story. I did have thoughts of like, hey, maybe I can go hoop or do whatever. And I realized, like, as I said earlier, like high school was going to be it for me. And then that's what led me into, journalism at some point as well, where I was like, hey, well, I'll tell you first. At first, I thought I was going to be a sports agent. And then I was like, oh, I don't like this life. And I got it in terms of what contracts would potentially look like. But for lack of a better phrase, agents, they have to kiss a little butt. And I wasn't comfortable, having to do that. And so I said, well, I don't think I can be an agent. So what's the next best path? I was like, all right, well, do I want to maybe work for a team? Do I want to be a general manager? And be a basketball operations person, or the case may be. So I actually did an internship. I worked for the New York Knicks for a little while, in their office. And I got firsthand exposure to what that life was like. And I think you realize like that it can be the life for kind of a younger person, so to speak, who doesn't have necessarily commitments. But if you want to be there, have a family, whatever the case to be, then that life is you spend a lot of it on the road. And you're away from your family. And then you have to understand what that is, right? And so if you're willing to, and then your family has to accept it as well. So then I quickly realized, I don't want to be in basketball operations because I want to be stable. I don't want to have my wife wondering where I'm at, you know what I mean? And why am I gone 200 days out of the year? Like that's no existence. And then if you have kids, you're not there, you miss birthdays, all of those things. I'm telling that story for a way to just kind of exhibit, you can try something, you learn it, you learn what it's about, then you may have to shift and you may have to shift again and pivot as you gain the information. Because a lot of times you look at something, you think you know what it is, and then you get there like, it's not quite that. It's something a little different. And for me, that's really what this whole journey has kind of been about. So, hey, I went from wanting to be an athlete and not being physically talented enough to do that, but also didn't work hard enough to trying to figure out a way to stay in sports. And that has kind of changed and shifted over the course of literally 15, 20 years, of me now to where I'm podcasting, but I spent some time writing and doing some other things as well too. But it all started from a love of basketball and wanting to play.
Wow. Great. Give us a really inspiring story of success, the success story of someone in the NBA that made it through all that we've been talking about.
Who made it in the NBA. So I can tell you, I have a friend, and maybe that's even a loose term here now, but when I was in high school, I ended up playing with a gentleman by the name of Keon Dooling. And Keon, I was 3 years older than him. So I was a senior when he was like a sophomore or whatever the case may be. But I graduated again, went to college with a KCB. That year that he was on our team, he led us to the state championships. We did not win, but he was on the team that helped us get there. And Keon ultimately made it to the NBA. He went to Missouri. Then he made it to the NBA, played for a bunch of teams, inclusive of the Clippers, the Heat, the Celtics, and some other stops as well too. It came out at some point, and this is his story to tell. But, he's been very public about it. So I'm comfortable sharing at least this much. He had a lot of adversity, that as a teammate, I didn't even know he was going through. Like, I won't get into the details of it, but look up Keon Dooling. And, when I realized how much he was overcoming, and he was on my basketball team as a 14-year-old, I think at the time, it's absurd to understand what he did to overcome, not just from a talent standpoint, but from a mental standpoint, to break through and continue to strive to become, a contributing member of the NBA for, I think it was like 10 plus years, if you will. I love that. I love that dude, and I'll tell you another quick story about him as well, because he was so humble. He was in the NBA, I believe he was on the Clippers at the time. I was literally back home, from wherever I was at Sam's Club. And I just hear somebody calling my name. I was like, what the hell? Who knows me at Sam's Club? And he was like, hey, I thought that, he's like, Born, is that you? Is that you? And I was like, yeah, what's up? And, he held me down, and he's at this point, he's an NBA star. Like, he's an NBA player. He's recognizable. I didn't even see him. I honestly didn't even see him. I was gone, packing my stuff away in the back of my trunk. But he called me and he was like, hey, bro, I just wanted to see you, how you been, da 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 da. And I always remember that. I was like, yo, this dude is so humble. Like, he made the NBA. He's making millions of dollars. He remembers me as his high school teammate from at that time, like, 15 years ago, and I didn't see him. He called me out. So, I think about that, then only to learn even more about his story growing up, his childhood. And he had it hard. He overcame some really, really difficult things, that no child should even have to go through. And, to him, he's again, I think he's a hero of mine in a lot of ways. And, he's got children now and the whole nine. He's a great dad. But I think it's an amazing, amazing story. And you talk about somebody who's really made it from, what was really, truly humble beginnings.
That's a great story, man. I mean, like, I wanted you to touch on something. You picked the right story as a motivational tool for those that have the talent. If a parent sees his child that it handles, or, a good shot, the support, they need to be there. I know that it's really hard to compete, but there's so many camps and different leagues to go through in order to become recognized. And, there are so many players who have their children actually, overshadowing the league right now, but not to hamper anyone that aspires, to tell them, just, if that's your dream, you're born to achieve greatness, go for it. If that's what God has given you the gift and talents to do, yeah. What's the difference between a great player, right, and a leader on the team? Because a lot of times you got a lot of talented and great players, but they don't seem to be able to lead it, to get to the championship.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's there's so much to that, even outside of just from the sports realm, because you'll see those same parallels in life. People are super talented.
So glad you touched that. Not to interrupt, I'm so glad you did that.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, they're very talented in their job and their whatever, but they're not great leaders. Like, they can't rally people around them. And so I think a lot of that is just, it's coming from whatever their experience, the leaders' experiences are, and the voices. And, do you have the ability to rally people? Do people believe in that? And sometimes, for me, and this is my personal philosophy, something I heard some years ago as well, is that I think a leader also knows when they need to follow. It's very easy to understand that, okay, I'm in this leadership position and that's my title says this, or I'm the captain on the team. But sometimes, to put it in, young people's terms, you got to let somebody else cook. Like, it's their turn now, right? And we need to follow. Or maybe I don't have it today. Hey, you know what? Can I inspire, and can I, rally behind somebody else? Like, leadership is something to me that does need to kind of oscillate from time to time. And, I never want to be, just because I'm in a leadership position, to feel like, okay, I have to, air quote, lead the charge. I need to have to be the first one in. There's times where that is the case, but sometimes, hey, somebody else might be better suited to take on this specific task or this role, or from a sports term, hey, it's their turn to kind of make this shot because maybe they have a better matchup. So leaders know how to, truly rally people around them and empower those around them, and don't necessarily need to be the showcase person at all times.
Thank you for joining today's podcast. We'll be right back.
Achieve Man, written by Warren Andrew Pinder and Dominique Bradford. This book passionately focuses on the challenges women have been made to go through and how to overcome them. In some cultures, being a woman disadvantages the girl child. This book carefully exposes the hurdles you might face. This masterpiece is the ultimate self-help guide for women. It reveals your true purpose and identity. Get your copy today. Available from Amazon.
We now return to today's podcast.
Who makes more money, talent or leaders?
Talent makes more money. That's just tried and true. I think when you're able to marry both, then you're really sitting pretty, right? But I think we're in a society that still is going to value the talent and the potential of that talent more than anything else. And you can feel however you feel about it. I think it's just that's just kind of where we continue to be at, because you see talent get away with things that, sometimes others can't. And that can be very, very frustrating, to witness. So, but that's where we're at still, I think, in society, whether you like it or not, unfortunately.
We're even though you're talking about your position right now with your podcast and you follow the NBA, what word of advice or wisdom would you give to someone that's actually following and sitting there right now listening to us and saying, yeah, man, I'm going to make the league. I believe I can make the league, right? What's your word of advice on how they should continue that pursuit?
Well, I mean, again, it goes back to what we started with, right? So, I mean, it's cliche for sure, but it still holds true, like in terms of the hard work, right? And whatever the analogy is, hard work and preparation, whatever, right? So I think you have to do all of that. You have to invest in yourself. You have to invest in your body. You have to invest in developing the skills, but you also have to invest in your mindset and, being somebody who's going to be coachable. And, somebody who's like, what, if you want to try to plan and have longevity as well, too. So there's no reason to listen to naysayers and doubters per se, but it's still preparing yourself for what, could be, not necessarily the path that you want to go on. But I'm excited about, people who are steadfast and you're like, what, I'm going to make it no matter what. So if it's plan A and you don't want to have plan B, then all right, but don't BS me, right? And when it comes to the work. Because, you know what I mean? Like, again, we talk about there's people out here working, or you're seeing what they're doing. You're seeing the drills they're running. There's 1,001 different camps. There's 1,001 different trainers out there doing the things that are trying to get X amount of people to the next level. Are you willing to invest, or are you just talking about it? And there's a lot of people, everybody has a mouth, but it doesn't mean, what they're saying is real and they're actually going to walk the talk.
You said something so poignant just now, right? Mindset. Right. We all know that probably the greatest mindset was the Mamba mindset, right? Everyone understands that just work till you drop. Just until you got to put your all in the game. I mean, what percentage of players are willing to actually sacrifice everything? I mean, you spoke about, the travel schedule, the lack, you're missing Christmas and missing a lot of birthday parties, kids' birthday parties and so forth. All that is a part of that mindset. Help people to understand that they, the toughness, that mental toughness that is required to actually survive, much less make the league.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying it right there. It's you don't know until you start trying to take a walk in those shoes, and then you start to realize exactly what it is, and then it weeds out, those who say they want to do it versus those who actually can do it. And I'm not knocking those who don't, because like I said, you can get into that situation. You're like, damn, I wanted to be there for my kid's birthday. I wanted to be there. And sometimes it to be at the highest levels, it takes those sacrifices, and you have to have the familial support that will allow those things to happen and that space to breathe. Otherwise, that's going to drain on you mentally as well, too. If you have your significant other, like, oh, you weren't here, and they don't understand the grind that you're on, then hey, you know what I mean? There's going to be real problems with that. So to me, I think it's just, it's understanding, maybe not just looking at somebody like Kobe or Jordan or what the case would be, but watching what they did, understanding, studying what they did, and say, hey, am I willing to do those same things in essence to kind of be great? And, that's what separates, truly, as I say, the men from the boys.
Yeah, it surely does, man. Having you here right now, we can't end this episode without you giving us, some ideas what to expect in the finals, the playoffs. Yeah, then March Madness is right here. What's your view on both those tournaments?
I wish I could sit here and pretend like, hey, I am not a college basketball individual. I don't have the bandwidth. My wife, ironically, she would not be very, very happy if I was doing that and the NBA. So I'm going to Christmas tree my bracket, and we'll see what's good, and hope for the best on that. But when it comes to the NBA, yes, I do feel pretty skilled in terms of being able to analyze and, give opinions on that. And my heart of hearts right now. So let me be honest with you, because I will always do that. I'm a Celtics fan. So I've been riding a nice little wave. I would love to say, and I would love to feel like they are going to repeat. I don't have a great sense for that currently. I think they're going to be competitive and be even in the Eastern Conference Finals. But Cleveland looks like how Boston looked last year in terms of, it's funny, you're talking about sacrifice. That's what the Celtics did last year to be able to get, to 60 plus wins. Cleveland is doing the same thing. You take a guy like Donovan Mitchell, who is like, yeah, I could give you 35 a night, but I saw what Jason Tatum did last year in Boston, where he sacrificed and allowed other peoples to try to get their baskets. And then you take into the influence of Kenny Atkinson as a Cleveland coach. I think this Cavs team has what it takes to be very competitive and ultimately get to the NBA Finals, where I do think they will meet the runaway favorite. I think right now in the Western Conference is OKC, and it's a little bit of a chalk pick because both those teams are riding winning streaks. Well, Cleveland just lost as it's recording, but they're number ones in their respective conference. But I think you have to look at exactly what we've been talking about throughout this podcast is their mindset. Are they ready to take the leap? Have they had the requisite experiences that have, given them the tools in essence to now be successful? Because sometimes when you're young or inexperienced, you can't get over that proverbial hump. But they both have experienced loss. They both have experiences where people doubted their ability to be champions. And I think they're both ready to kind of get to that. So I'm predicting a Cleveland and OKC NBA Finals, which isn't really anything spectacular, I think, by even oddsmaker standpoint. But I think OKC is actually going to win the NBA championship because I think they are just a team of destiny right now. I think it's going to be very close, though. I think we have a 6 or 7 game series, when we get to that point, barring injury, of course.
That's so eloquently stated. In the Bahamas right now, everyone loves the Lakers, right? Let them. I mean, I don't, but give them some comfort as to with all the trades and everything that's been happening. What's your view? What's of what's happening with the Lakers right now?
Yeah, I mean, LA's still in a very good spot. They're sliding a little bit here now, especially because of the LeBron injury. Luka's still dealing with some nagging injuries as well, while also trying to find his role. Like people, and again, you talk about mindset again. Like this guy came from Dallas. He was uprooted. He didn't expect to be in LA. Is he in a better situation? We don't really know yet. But either way, he wasn't expecting to be there. So he's had to shift his entire mindset, had to uproot, his family or whatever it is, and now move from Dallas to LA in the middle of the season where it was completely like shell-shocking to him. So while he's playing pretty well here now, he's still finding his footing. The Lakers team has found a way to be impactful defensively, which is, obviously the key to most championships, if you will. And I think they're going to have a lot to say about this. I would not want to be on the other side of that, with the healthy LeBron and Luka going up against them in any playoff matchup. And it also is obviously going to depend where it all shakes out. But because of the slide here now with LeBron being out, I think they're at 5 right now. I think as we're recording, I think they're the 5th seed, and that 4 seed could end up being a Denver team for them, which they've traditionally struggled with. Although Denver's I think at 3 right now, but you're looking at Houston, Denver, and Memphis, all kind of oscillating between 2, 3, and 4. If the Lakers stay at 5, their best matchup would be a Houston team. But if Denver comes to calling in the first round, that ain't gonna be great for them, even with Luka and LeBron in tow.
Now for a commercial break.
Achieve Men, written by Warren Andrew Pinder. In this book, you will learn the 7 steps to achieving your dreams and goals. Given the vision to share how the acronym of the word achieve can be used systematically in your day-to-day life. Each of us is given a unique gift from God. Get your copy today. Available in print, ebook, and audiobook from Amazon.
We now return to today's podcast.
What about the Warriors?
Well, there's a lot of conversation about Golden State right now. And, I live in the South Florida area, so very familiar with the whole Jimmy Butler saga and everything that's happened there. Golden State is, I'm a little hesitant to put my stamp of approval on them. I know what I'm seeing with the eye test and how they've played. They've won, 13 or 14 out of the 15 games Jimmy Butler has played. I get all that. There's just something that is like, I got to see it in the playoffs to truly believe. Again, I wouldn't want to see it. I wouldn't want to be playing against them, but I just want to see, will that supporting cast be enough? You're playing a rookie center. You need Potts to be able to come back off of injury. Will Draymond be able to, keep his wits about him, in the highest moments? I believe in Steph Curry, the great Steph Curry, and everything that he's been able to do, even Steve Kerr as well, too, on the sidelines. Again, they're on an incredible winning streak right now. I just want to see who they match up with in the playoffs, and will they have a sustained run. But I saw that title odds might have changed for them, that they might be entering like a 4th or 5th, highest title odds, which is just bananas to me. Like it's chaos. But I prisoner of the moment. We often are. Jimmy Butler, a lot of people are trusting. So I'm gonna let the Golden State Warriors live, and I'm gonna get off my soapbox.
Yeah, I mean, you're from South Florida, and we're right across just right across the sea,
Yeah.
right over the sea, right now. There, a lot of us here in the Bahamas, our team of the Heat. You said Jimmy Butler. Give some hope. Give some hope. Should we wait? How long? Just give some hope.
I promised you I would never lie to you. There's not much hope. There's not much hope this season. I think they lost 7 straight. It does look pretty dire right now. I do think Spo is still the best coach in the NBA. And, maybe there'll be something where they, are competitive, but there looks like they're going to end up in that play-in, and yeah, they can beat a Chicago or something like that to actually get in. But then you run into that aforementioned Cleveland team in the first round. That's night and night. That's lights out. So I think, ideally, and they're not, the Heat team is too proud. They're not going to tank. But I think ideally the best case scenario for them is to try to get into the lottery, and then see where they would be able to, where I trust their scouting, because their scouting is excellent. I trust their scouting to be able to do something and, see how they can set this back on an upward trajectory. But it's tough sledding right now, despite the great seasons of Tyler Hero, and Bam Adebayo has been coming along here a little bit towards the tail end of the season.
Yeah, you did. Warren to Warren, it's just been great having you, and actually.
Hold on, I'm going to interrupt only because we have a Raptors question in here right now, and
all right.
I'll give you a 2-second take on Toronto.
I forgot.
I'm rooting for them. I like Scotty Barnes a lot. I think Emmanuel Quickly is a more than competent point guard, at the guard position. RJ Barrett seems to be great playing in the hometown of Toronto. I think Jakob Poeltl is a solid center. These pieces need some time to come together. And, they made the acquisition to get Brandon Ingram at the trade deadline. He has yet to play. I doubt he will play, because it does seem like the Raptors are tanking, and they want to get into the lottery. But I will say, for next year, with all those pieces healthy, they could make a run, I think, at a lower playoff seed. I think Barnes is a requisite talent. Again, he's not a superstar, but he's a perennial all-star level type dude. And I think when you get BI back up in there and healthy, that this Raptor team is going to be very, very tough. And they have a lot of length. They'll be able to play defensively. They'll still struggle, I think, from the outside shot with 3-point shooting. You can't just rely on Grady Dick alone out there to be the 3-point threat. But I do like what Toronto is attempting to build. I think they got Brandon Ingram on the cheap, and pairing him alongside Barnes, again, with the aforementioned Quickly and Barrett. I think the Raptors are, they're building a little something there in Toronto.
Yeah, that's super great. One quick question before you go. How do you rate DeAndre Ayton? I mean, that's our homeboy. Man, but tell us. I mean, we want to see him succeed, man. You know,
I listen. All right. Again, I can't help myself. I'm just an honest individual. I don't.
Yeah.
I know people want me to say what they want to say, but
yeah.
I want. DeAndre has so much talent, and I know he's struggled with injuries this year. Kind of again, and clinging is kind of like on the spot. I don't know if he's going to come back this year or not. I just need him to hoop. I think where he gets in trouble is when he talks and is trying to, necessarily over advocate for himself. Like even last year, the dominating, what he was basically saying, he was like dominating. And I was like, there's no need for that, bro. Like just go out there. You're on a rebuilding team where you can be the focal point of that offense and, just do your thing. He's been able to be incredible, I think, at times, even this season when he was healthy, putting up consistent double doubles. He's got nice touch, from mid range. Well, obviously, I'm not sending out to three. And again, he's an explosive rebounder. Not the greatest shot blocker, although he gets a couple blocks here and there. But I think he just needs to focus on hooping. And if he can get with somebody who, a point guard that can truly set him up on a more regular basis, he's going to have a very long career here. I don't know if Portland's going to be his last stop, especially with clinging here now in the fold. But DeAndre has value in this league, and I think he's going to have a very, very long career. And I think he can be somewhat dominating, but doesn't need to go out there, trying to parade and not parade it, but, overstate it in a way. Just, hey, do your thing. And I think the stats will come to you. And so will the checks.
If he could hear his word, I would tell him come home for a few days of summer, go into the beach, just relax, reset, and see himself becoming a great player, like you said.
Yeah, I can. I do. Yeah, I like him a lot. You know what I mean? And it's just, sometimes our exuberance gets the best of us. And, we want what we want. And sometimes, that can kind of get in the way of our actual, our expectations. And I think, he's still got a long way to go. He's like, what, 26 or something like that?
26, he's young. Yeah. Yes.
So he's got plenty of time.
I can tell you for those persons that really been listening to you today, we really tried to take it from a perspective of their expectation of what it takes to get into the NBA. But I coming to the end, persons can hear it, your stuff, right? So even when they make it, you're going to have a Warren Shaw, critiquing them, being able to study it and understanding, their success. And that's a good thing, because you're keeping it 100% real, letting us know exactly what it is today. NBA is a great league to aspire, but at the same time, such is life, having a parallel, alternative going at the same time is even greater. But I want to thank you, Warren, for being the guest here today on the Born to Achieve Greatness podcast. And, I look forward to staying in contact. And, when you, giving us hope here in the Bahamas that Miami Heat, somewhere down the line, you're from South Florida. Do you pull for the Heat?
I do not. I'm a notorious Heat hater, and I'm proud of that. Again, I am a Celtics fan, and we have bad blood, so it's a very interesting situation. My wife is very much a Heat fan, so it's a divided household. But I'm on top right now with the Celtics, being the defending champion. So continue to find that out.
All right, man. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all that you've expressed in the show tonight.
I appreciate, having me on your platform. And yeah, anytime you need something, by all means, podcast or otherwise, man, me and 19 Media Group are here to help. So thank you so much for the platform.
I'm going to take it off. I'll definitely stay in contact.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Born to Achieve. We hope you found it informative, inspiring, and motivating. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and family. Stay focused on your goals, and we'll see you on the next episode of Born to Achieve.
Take advantage of this incredible opportunity. Sign up today and claim your free ebook at www.borntoachievegreatness.com. Follow us on Facebook at Achieve Movement Inc. Get your copy of Exploring Achieveland, A Journey to Realize Your Dreams, Motivational Stories of Kindness, Inspiring Stories for Kids on Amazon and Kindle.